is sexy, danceable rock that fits right in with royal blood, Queen of the Stone Age,
Welshly
arms. The
Barbara
bands.
Hernandez. So, what were some of the hardships that your band had? Hemorrhoids, shifting tectonic plates, a lack of earthworms. We really need your patronage. We really need your patriotism.
This is the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast.
Worshipping the guitar.
It's
AI imagery. Yeah.
It's a little known fact.
Yeah.
That cavemen used to worship the electric guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Some sort.
I wonder how they got a nicer turntable than I have.
So I would like to complain.
Okay.
About the firehouse once again.
Okay. There's always an incident.
Can't ever get out of the firehouse without there being. We can't ever get out of the firehouse without some bit of weirdness. And this was the weirdness this New Year's Eve. I'm in the bathroom doing my thing, and I had pulled my underwear up, but not my pants, when the stall door was summarily whipped open by a woman. Now, typically, and we've all been in this scenario where somehow you open up a door to a bathroom you think is empty, and most normal people go, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I didn't see a thing," or something to that effect. Wait, isn't that what you would do? Am I crazy?
No.
Okay. This woman whips open the door, goes, "Oh," and then says, "Oh, nice underwear."
Yeah. It's a different breed of person that goes to this bar. Not to mention what happened at the end. We watched Ron's band. They were great. And then remember what happened? Then what happened?
Oh, then some weird girl tried to come home with us. So, yeah.
She asked me if I did anything outside my marriage. When I said no, she said, "Well, can you just take me home with you?" The two of you?
Yeah.
And I was like, that completes the night at the firehouse. There's the weirdness that we always have. And I guess it's such a hookup market there that they think that because you and I are there, we have to be there to hook up with others or something.
We were just there to
even though we're
see
together.
music.
We were just there to go to the band. Go see the band, yeah. Yeah, but anyway, so we had a good time though.
Yeah, we did. Outside of generalized weirdness.
Yeah, there's always something at the firehouse. Beer was good. It's fine.
So another thing that often takes me by surprise is the amount of people that are still vapidly holding on to believing the superstitions. It's 2023.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I actually, was on the phone with a patient trying to schedule an appointment, and they were appalled because I suggested that they come on a Friday the 13th. Oh, no. And you think they're kidding, but they're not.
Why should you even be open that day?
I mean,
honestly, let's just all stay in bed that day. Pray that it ends.
I don't understand it. I mean, do you not even touch a lamp, or maybe you have to use your clap on the 13th? But it is a real thing, and a lot of people must have this fear because there are many buildings that don't have a level 13.
Yeah.
I remember getting a tour of labor and delivery. I don't know why they make you do that before you give birth. I guess you're familiar, but you could walk through and they skip over labor and delivery room number 13. It doesn't exist, except the woman in 14 must know she's in 13 somehow.
It goes right from 12 to 14?
Uh-huh.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. There isn't one. There are airlines that don't have a 13th row. They don't have them because some people flip shit, I guess, and refuse to sit in it.
Yeah.
Or demand to be reseated.
I thought it was funny when we were flying and we went to them and said we wanted to be together and whatever. And they said, "Well, we can put you in that you have a health issue, but then you can't sit in the emergency row." And like she hesitated. Like I was going to go, "Oh, well, wait a minute. Let me think this through again." That extra 6 inches of leg room and the possibility that I have to help everybody on the plane. I'm going to go ahead and sit in it. Crazy. I was like, is this supposed to be a bad thing? Anyway, but go on with number 13. How far back does this shit go?
Well, you know, there's been people that have it kind of goes way, way back in time. I mean, like to the Mesopotamian era.
Wow.
The Code of Hammurabi, which was for those of you playing along at home, Babylonian code of law that it dates back to approximately 1760 BC. That's how old this shit is. And the laws
How much
are
would you pay for all this historical education? You probably thought you were on a rock and roll show. Anyway, back to Babylonia. Go
and
ahead.
the laws are numbered, but
Mhm.
they don't have a law number 13. Although they also admitted apparently they had a lot of laws, number 66 and number 99.
What's it called? Triska. How do you say that?
Tris-
Triskade.
Caphobia?
Triskaidekaphobia.
Yeah, is actually the
Widespread.
official name about
Fear of number 13.
fear of number 13, but it was really prevalent among ancient peoples. So,
Well, here's some good things about the number 13. I put together a little list of things about number 13 that I think are groovy. So here we go. Number 1, that's how old I was when I had my first beer. It's the title of a pretty bland Megadeth album, but a really cool Big Star song. How about the third one? You know the third one.
oh, when you get a dozen steamed crabs, they give you a baker's dozen.
Yeah. But you
So-
can't even say 13. They say Baker's dozen. Yeah, that applies to bagels and donuts and whatever else too. Yeah. You get the bonus crab. I'm almost like, did he give us? Oh, we got the bonus crab. That's great. So, check this out. There are only 12 Friday the 13th movies, and that's about 10 too many, if you ask me. So, Judas was apparently the 13th guest at the Last Supper.
Oh. Also, another uninvited guest was Loki in Norse lore. He was the 13th god, which apparently brought evil and treachery into the world. But I think Loki probably was just enough. He was kind of a pip.
Only 12 months, even in a leap year, so no one needs to dip out about the whole month.
Right.
Out for the whole month.
So I don't know why we stopped at 12 or whatever numerical system we came up with. But they still let people turn age 13.
And the Anvil documentary, which is the most depressing rockumentary ever made. And the band kind of sucks. I mean, let's get real. It's based around them making their album called This Is 13.
Which was
Yeah.
apparently not good luck for them at all.
Not at all. And then I'll let you cap it off.
Well, we got married on a Friday the 13th.
We said bring it on. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was great.
We're just living on the edge, I think, And
And-
we're like, yes.
As much as I love you, the fact that April 1st was my official divorce date, I think I was a little more excited that day. Yeah.
April
Anyway.
Fools.
So this has been the number 13 with Mark and Sticks. Okay, so we talk about the feature interview. My goodness. Okay. A band near and dear to our heart. We're going to talk to guitarist Ronnie TenTen Younkins of Kix. Kix goes all the way back to the late 70s. They were called the Shoes at one point, and they had a couple of different name changes. They got signed to Big Ol' Atlantic in 1981. And in seemingly no time, this is the music of my childhood, folks.
Yeah.
In seemingly no time, Kix was always being played at the beer parties. The wise folks that were over 18 would put it on, and they let our sorry underage, acne-infested, hormone-plagued asses tag along in these parties. We were introduced to so many bad decisions, and Kix was typically the background music at these parties. I was a young, impressionable Baltimore kid, and Kix's debut was my Sgt. Pepper. It was my Frampton Comes Alive. Every word to every cheesy song is still stuck in my brain
Yep.
so many years after the fact. The debut, if you listen to it now, it kind of sounds a little bit featherlight now compared to the later stuff and modern stuff. But it was produced by Tom Allom of Judas Priest fame. Obviously, guys in Kix were a bunch of perverts just like us. There's some 60s pop in there, some doo-wop swirled in, and obviously like stuff like Sweet and AC/DC. The song The Itch, which was played on our local radio stations all the time. I mean, we all knew that it was a thinly veiled ripoff of AC/DC's What's Next to the Moon. I mean, the music's almost exactly the same, but I mean, lyrically, it's worlds apart, These guys obviously lived in our world. Everything has got tons of hooks and hand claps and harmonica, stuff like The Kid, Poison, Contrary Mary. I could go on and on.
Very, very danceable. And for me, I mean, again, I grew up with them as well.
Yep.
You know, my teenage years watching them just blow up and get bigger and bigger. And back to, you know, as you'll hear later, when I was a college student, seeing them, you know, every other week at Hammerjacks, it seemed like.
Yep.
You know, I never got tired of the songs. Everyone in the crowd was literally singing every lyric of every song.
Yeah. The first album was so great. And then in 83, they put out a follow-up and it was called Cool Kids. And it was anything but, because it was very new wave-ish and it was not anything like the first record. I remember when I listened to it, I remember saying, Olivia Newton-John is heavier than this. You know, this is terrible. This is like music for bad workouts. You know, they redeemed themselves. The guitarist that we're going to interview skipped that record. And he came back for the next one, Midnight Dynamite, which is produced by Beau Hill of ZZ Top notoriety. A string of great records followed. Midnight Dynamite, Blow My Fuse, which went platinum, and Hot Wire. All delivered the quality hard rock that Kix was known for. And ever since peaking in the late 80s, the band members have continued to intermittently record and tour, including the Rocklahoma Festival in 2008 in Oklahoma. And they're a constant presence at the annual M3 Rock Festival in Maryland.
They'll be back again this year for their 14th year at this rock festival, pretty close to us, Merriweather Post Pavilion. They have a 2-day spread of 80s rockers that are coming in. Lita Ford, Great White. But the closeout of the whole show are our hometown heroes, Kix.
That's great. All right, I'm all excited now. Let's play a song. Let's play a song from the first Kix record, which, you know, it's just part of my DNA at this point. This song is called Heartache. Okay, let's talk about Patreon. I've got a brilliant idea this week for exclusive content that no one is going to see but us. I guess that's what exclusive means, right? I'm going to be putting up a feature called Mark Gives You 10 Jazz Rock Albums That You Must Own. Jazz rock is not a crime. There's a lot of good stuff on there. We need it. It's a treasure trove, folks, at this point. Just so much bonus footage. If you think this is something, you just got to get over there. We really need your patronage. We really need your patriotism.
There's a lot of quality footage that you can only get by subscribing. So get on your butts over there.
Season 3 artwork is done and already up there. You can see it in season 3 artwork, and it is a great album parody too. Yeah.
So if you can't get enough of us, this is where you need to be, because there's even more of us that is only for you. That's
right. So it's patreon.com/Snaggletooth podcast. Get over there, give us $6.66 a month, and you will get enough Mark and Stace to choke a cat. So, and who wouldn't want that? Honestly. So, okay. So, for our next feature, oh, wait a minute. We're actually overdue for a Seussical, okay? And I was supposed to do one last week, but we had to get something else instead. Anyway, but there's not a lot of like bickering on Blabbermouth or anything this week. I couldn't really find that much. You know, there's no Nikki Sixx bashing Eddie Vedder, bashing, Yngwie Malmsteen. I really wasn't able to find that much. So I was starting to worry about it a bit. And then it hit me the other night. We've been rewatching all the Harry Potters. And there's just something about
somebody's new to it.
Yeah, yeah. And there's something about it it's just so English. It's so British. I started to find a Motorhead parallel. So what I decided to do is We Are the Road Crew, except I've renamed it I'm Harry Potter, bitch. So here we go. Okay. Another day in Muggle jail, another Dursley epic fail, another owl delivering mail. I've got a scar, I miss my dad. That sorting hat is pretty rad. One day I'll be a Hogwarts grad. Gryffindor, the hat agreed. A flying car is what I need. That Malfoy is a cunt indeed. I'm Harry Potter, bitch. A basilisk I've left behind, a hippogriff that's quite maligned, another broomstick I can't find. Another golden egg for you, some gillyweed will have to do, a Triwizard tournament to get through. I'm flying like a maniac, seeking way to hell and back. Another bludger I can whack. I'm Harry Potter, bitch. Another burrow we can burn. Death Eaters, they never learn. Ron and Hermione quite concerned. Another Quidditch game to play. Another dragon I can slay. Another spell I'll learn to say. Another bloody Hogwarts ghost. Another quaffle through the post. And I've still got this scar to boast. I'm Harry Potter, bitch.
I like the fact you left out he who must not be named because he must not be.
I did. I couldn't find a way to get Voldemort into the lyrics.
Kinda hard to
so
rhyme.
it was a little rough, yeah.
Not a lot rhymes with Voldemort.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was just, I'm glad I got that off my chest. So there's your next musical. Let's play Midnight Dynamite, baby. So you've never seen a man anywhere else wearing a Seussical hat, but with Alice Cooper makeup. So there you go. See, how much would you pay? So listen to this, right? So I work in an office, and I have to deal with big companies, big giant steamship lines, giant port authorities, big government agencies, that sort of thing. I'm used to people not responding, okay, via email or phone or whatever. Forget the phone. They don't answer their phone. It's so silly. Anyway, that's so 5 minutes ago. Anyway, so there's this one woman that she's supposed to be with my point of contact at this huge company, right? And every time I email her, she redirects me to someone else. And she does it in a way that it's like she's irritated. So, like, I'll ask her, I'll say, can you help me with this? And she'll come back and go, Mark, adding customer service. Here's their contact details. And I'll be like, how about this? And she'll go, Mark, this mail should have gone to cargo operations in Savannah. Okay, can you help me with this one? Mark, claims department is in Geneva, and they would handle this. So I've decided that her title is the director of redirecting. How does one get a job like that?
I should be the director of search and rescued lost patients.
Directing people to the medical office. Yeah.
Everybody gets lost. Every single person gets lost. And I've talked about this before, but you know, a lady was on the phone with me the other day, and I said, no, you're going to want to come out of the parking lot and make a left. And she said, you're going too fast. So
we already talked about the state-of-the-art GPS lady, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another show.
No. So, yeah, but that's what I find like.
Don't insult someone's state-of-the-art GPS. Yeah. So I'm okay now, but day after Christmas, I had a really bad fall coming down the stairs to avoid stepping on a freaking cat. And it's funny when you're a kid and you fall, it's like funny, but when you're older, you're our age, falling, you're like, oh my God, am I gonna die? You know. And
how much is my deductible?
I came down hard on this shoulder, right? So I kept using passenger side for everything. My passenger side arm wasn't working. Everything had to be driver side, you know. Forget about working out. I would lie down the wrong way or sneeze, and I'd get a shot of pain that would lock up my entire driver's side, right? It took several days and a shitload of ibuprofen to get through it. I mean, and the whole time I was laying there, I was thinking, this is like going from 50 to 75 in one day. Like planning how you're going to get up. Am I going to, no, can't lean that way. You know, planning which side you'll lay on.
Getting your wife to do all your heavy lifting.
And light lifting, yeah. Constantly popping pills, groaning without realizing it. I mean, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. Walking around with that pained face that old people have, that, you know. It's very humbling too. I mean, healthy me tends to decline offers for help. You know, you need help with that, you can get that. I got it. Well, that completely changed. Stace getting me beers was the greatest thing ever. Since standing up was like, took 10 minutes of planning. But like, all right, I'm going to go to the left foot first. And then I'm going to slide the swivel to the left a little bit. And then, you know, it was horrible. You know, I saw her take a big load of laundry up the stairs. And I was like, oh my God, that's unthinkable to me. But I did that 2 days ago. I took the lid off the ice cream too fast and went, I mean, we're talking hurting. How about now? You hurt yourself sleeping, right?
Oh yeah, I just slept funny, and my whole neck was stiff, and I was trying to drive, and there was like no way I could check my blind spot without like
I had that too.
turning my whole body. It was like, and that was just sleeping. I didn't even fall. I mean, it's pretty bad when you're like, how did you get hurt? Oh, I was asleep. You know, it's just
You gotta come up
horrible.
with a better story than that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that for a while. For some reason, I had this really hectic job, and I was doing that because I tend to turn to check the blind spot, and I was like, all right, I'm coming over. I guess this is as far as my neck will go, right? And I was trying to pinpoint what the hell caused it, and then I realized it was from running through airports with my duffel bag or my carry-on over this shoulder. It was just it destroyed all this whole area. So when I stopped doing that, I suddenly was able to whip around again. So anyway, so we're all healed in Snaggletooth land, but it was very humbling. And it actually made me, I actually got kind of jealous of lazy people. There's so many things that I can't do when I was sore, and I'm not used to that. It would have been so much easier for the non-ambitious, like, yeah, I was going to binge watch Better Call Saul anyway, but now that I'm hurt, I have a great excuse.
I'm not good at that at all. Every time I've had to have, a minor surgery or something. I mean, I've, knock on wood, I'm speaking of superstitions.
Yeah.
I've never had a major huge one, but they're like, sit still for a day. I can't do it. I can't.
I think I have sports superstition. I do have that. Like if the Ravens win, like say you and I had sex in the second half, I'll be like, all right, we gotta do that every week now. So sorry, babe. They won. I mean, come on. Or if we started drinking in the fourth quarter or whatever, like I will, I won't wear the same shirt over and over again, but I will be somewhat superstitious, especially if it's the playoffs.
I always try to, religiously wear my purple on Fridays.
You do. You're very good at that. I never remember it. Yeah. Well, now that we're back to speaking about Baltimore stuff, let's play another Kick song. Why don't you introduce this one?
This is Kicks with one of my favorites, No Ring Around Rosie.
Yeah. All right. Home Chef time.
So I thought rather than talk about Home Chef, I would actually show it to you this week, or some of it. I didn't bring the meat down. Our meals for this week, and you might want to do a close-up of these later.
Okay.
Are Italian style meatballs, white wine chicken scallopini, and onion fig and Swiss steak sandwiches.
I love the way she says chicken. So sexy. Nobody says it like you.
So I wanted to show you exactly how your meals come. So I brought one of them down. So all your ingredients for one meal, this is going to be really loud, come in a bag like this. All your produce, your spices are bagged. Your sauce, your cheese, everything's individually bagged, labeled, so it's really easy to follow. This is the meatball one. You get a picture on the front of the way it's turned out, and they honestly do turn out looking like this. On the back, you have step-by-step directions along with pictures in case you get completely lost. So on the front, it'll tell you the difficulty, although sometimes it says advanced, and I really don't think it's that bad. But it'll tell you how long the prep time is. This is 25 to 35 minutes, not spicy, intermediate. So you get all this on your card. And say you're like, okay, great, but I don't want a steak and fig sandwich. Well, that's super easy because you can go on your account and they offer tons of different options for meals.
You can really customize the meals. Yeah. You can add to it, subtract to it, change the meat, make it meat free, although I don't know why you would ever do that. So.
Well, if you're vegan or vegetarian, they do have those options. Even if, like, say you like this recipe, but you don't eat pork, that's fine. They actually have options. You can change out the meat in this recipe.
Right. If
So
you have a large family, you can add to it. It's very customizable.
They're always trying to get me to add desserts in, which I'm not doing. But get over to Home Chef, use our link. It will save you $30 off your first box. And you will get your meal pack delivered right to your door so you can start cooking your amazing meals yourself.
Tomorrow night, I'm going to be like, what stinks in the basement? Oh my God, we left the food down there. Ah, yes. The era of debauchery behind us. Kicks at their prime. Sound. It's the sound. It's time for collectorbation. So, as promised, I'm doing some of the one-on-ones now with you guys. And this week, we're going to work on the Gull Records era of Judas Priest. The really, really good stuff. So, let's start off with the Cat in the Hat. we'll start off with an album that I can't believe they were able to get away with. This cover.
They didn't.
Well, yeah, tell that story. Rock and Rolla from 1974. This is their heavy psych-oriented beast of a debut. Very much in the vein of Black Sabbath. The galloping guitars are still kind of in development, but in cuts like the title track and Cheater, they still sound great. The best moments on this record to me are the kind of mellow, introspective parts, because then when Halford screams over them, it just magnifies what a great singer he was.
Yeah, and the reason if you in my research, the cover does change on this album. So if you have this one, it's actually worth more than the second pressing where the cover changed. But the US re-release during the 80s, they had to change this cover art. And some reports claim that yes, the band was threatened with a lawsuit from Coca-Cola, and others state that the band threatened to sue because they actually hated this cover. This was supposed to be just used for an unspecified Rolling Stones album.
Okay.
So
Gull Records screwed up.
yeah, Gull Records screwed up. This was actually supposed to be for a magazine cover.
Oh, that's funny.
It was not supposed to be the album cover. So for whatever reason, the cover does change.
Yeah.
Depending on whatever sources you listen
I
to.
I always thought the other covers lame. What's it called? Well, who's the artist that did the monster cover or whatever?
Oh yeah.
Melvin Grant.
Yeah.
It's from the novel The Street Czar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I always thought it was kind of lame.
You know, but according to the band, this entire album was played live in the studio rather than doing the individual musicians recording on their own and then putting it together.
Oh, so it wasn't spliced, it was
No.
actually live.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. It's a solid debut. It's not their best, but let's play a song from it now. This is Never Satisfied. That's fine. Okay, so moving on to Sad Wings. Okay. Sorry, we never did this. One of my favorite records of all time, one of the greatest metal records of all time. It is undisputed. These are the facts of the case, and they are undisputed. Sad Wings of Destiny, folks. This album takes the heavy riffing from the first record and bathes it in all kinds of colorful guitar tones and muted chugs and mini segs, and the lyrics are awesome. The Ripper is all full of Queen-informed camp. And to me, the best part of the album is that little mini epic that makes up Deceiver through Epitaph. It's kind of like a half a concept record. Considering how young the band was to put out something with this much depth, the little mini epic that I mentioned, exploring corruption of innocence, treachery, power, war, exploitation. Plus, another thing is, I love pre-1980 metal. I call it ye old metal. Because despite how heavy and great the music was, they hadn't figured out their wardrobes yet. So everybody's wearing like scarves, and KK's got that big hat on and stuff on the old Grey Whistle test footage. Look that up on YouTube. It's great.
The crazy part about Sad Wings of Destiny, again, is although it did get a positive reception, it had horrible sales. You know, so
Imagine it.
the band of this time was getting really frustrated with Gull Records because of the tight budgets, living off the single meal a day, working side jobs to support themselves. They were so upset about their financial situation that they ended up breaking their contract and leaving and signing with CBS Records. But the downside of doing that was Sad Wings of Destiny now belonged to Gull.
Which is why you could never find it in the stores in America. And that brings me to the next record, which is kind of this weird sort of semi-unauthorized thing. In the US, if you wanted to hear early Priest, this was all that was available all through the 80s and 90s. I mean, the best of Judas Priest, it's a nothing title. We get 3 songs from Rock and Rolla and 4 from Sad Wings. We would blast the cassette copy of this while we were closing the Sizzler back when I was in high school. It had this weird Star Wars-y looking album cover. It's perplexing.
Well, one fact that might clear that up is Gull actually released this without the band's permission because they had the rights to the music. So
I'm not
they had
surprised, yeah.
actually nothing to do with this compilation or possibly the cover art.
Yeah, this was all you could find in your local Kmart in 1988 or whatever.
So
If
for
you
some
wanted your
reason,
own
they're like,
Priest,
what should we
whatever.
put on it? Let's put the Tin Man. I don't know.
Yeah, so that doesn't make any sense. Well, anyway, so that's the Goal era of Priest, and let's play a song. Why don't you introduce it?
This song is Deceiver.
Yes. Okay. Look at all that hair behind us. It's time to introduce the feature interview with Ronnie Younkins. Let's do it. You're looking at, well, you're talking to two dyed-in-the-wool Baltimore-born Kicks fans, so you know.
Well, good afternoon to you.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
telling somebody the other day that the first Kicks album, that is my Frampton Comes Alive. I mean, that's
Oh, really?
my record. Yeah.
No kidding. Yeah, that's probably my favorite Kicks record. It is, actually.
Oh, the stories with that playing in the background. Yeah.
So where is
Yeah. Uh-huh.
1010 in your name?
Yeah, let's start with that. Where's 1010 come from?
It came from me being so loud in Brian's basement when we started the band. We used to practice at Brian's house. It was like 1977. Donnie and I got together with a couple guys that we played with for about a month or so, but they were from Pittsburgh. But it didn't work out because we were so poor, we didn't have a place to keep these guys. So I knew Brian from our teenage years. We used to see each other's bands, and I said, Donnie, I know this guitar player, great guitar player. So we ended up practicing in Brian's basement, and it was really small. And I didn't have much gear then, but I had an old Fender Super Amp, and the only way that it would sound good is turn it all the way up to 10, and so it would break up. This is before the age of tube screamers, and
Yeah.
I mean, there were fuzz tones and a couple distortion units, but I just cranked the amp all the way up. And it became kind of a standing joke, even though I was really loud. Our drummer at the time said, "Hey, 10, can you turn it down?" Donnie Spence was our original drummer, and then he would say 10, and then 10. So that's where the name came from. Is a volume problem, basically.
That's great. That's great. Yeah.
So that's
No wonder
it.
you kept it. You wonder you kept it. Even when you call me, your phone number, it comes through Ronnie 1010. And I'm thinking, I couldn't even get my fucking ex-wife's thing off my phone number. I don't even know how to do that. So I don't know how you pulled that off. That's great. You know.
Yeah, I couldn't get the numerals. I had to spell it out.
You had to spell it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was impressed.
Who else took the numerals? I'm like, somebody, I don't know.
Do you have 1010 on your license plate? Do you have like a Ronnie 1010 on your license?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm just lucky to have a license plate. I'm lucky to have a license. I'm lucky to have
We've all been
anything,
there.
really.
Yeah.
Originally, the band was the Shoes, and I saw that you could still even get T-shirts on your merch page. How did that name come about, and why did it change to Kicks?
Actually, Donnie Spence named us that. We needed a name, and original drummer, we were just like throwing around some names. He was looking down at the floor. He goes, "What about the Shoes?" He was looking at his chucks or something. And
Yeah.
so that's where the name came from. We spelled it differently. We spelled it Shooze. And when we went to make our first record, there was another band that got in touch with Atlantic Records. They were from Chicago, and they were called the Shoes, only it was spelled Shoes. So we changed our name to the Generators. And then while we were recording the first record, there was a band called the Generators, and this guy from Detroit got a hold of Atlantic, and he wanted us to Donnie chose the name Kicks. Actually, the two guys that we played with, Donnie and I played with, used to come in this area to play. They're from Ohio. They were called Kicks. Well, it was Kickx, or Kicks. I'm sorry. Maybe that was in the back of his mind. I don't know. Yeah. So that's where that all happened and how it happened.
There was something about Kix's music. You were just a little different than a lot of the other hard rock at the time. And there's a lot of hand claps and there's like the harmonica. And I always wanted to ask, were you guys into like show tunes? Because there's almost like a West Side Story, Grease kind of vibe to some of the choruses.
Background.
Yeah, I mean, compared to like an LA Guns or something, you guys had a little bit more of that. I don't know. It's the hand clappy, finger snappy sound. Yeah. Like I know there's AC/DC and Sweet in there and all that stuff, but still, you know.
Yeah, I just think there was something that came about that was kind of authentic. It really didn't come from anywhere, but us being together all the time and recording and, trying new things. And I'm sure it just happened to be something Jimmy brought up and or Don brought up, percussion-wise.
It's just that special sauce that you guys have.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Somehow it evolved. I know that it came directly from, if it was a steal from any particular band. I mean, we all were inspired by pretty much the same bands. I mean, we all grew up, we're all pretty much close in age. So we grew up with, Beatles and the Stones. And I grew up with, I love Jimi Hendrix. I don't know how much the other guys like Jimmy, but Aerosmith was a big influence for me. And so was the early Alice Cooper band. Guys like Johnny Winter, Paul Kossoff from Free, those guys were a big influence for guitar playing. But mostly Jimi Hendrix for me, and Joe Perry a lot. Keith Richards, of course. But we all pretty much, a couple of the other guys were really big AC/DC fans. I really love Angus's lead guitar playing. I didn't listen to AC/DC as much as those guys did, but that was a big influence for the band. And Steve's voice lent itself for that style as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, his vocal style is so unique. It just kind of, you could hear that anywhere and be like, oh, that's Kix.
Yep, exactly. Yeah,
right.
Very distinctive.
Yes.
What do you remember when you guys were recording Blow My Fuse? How did that go? Because I think that was in LA, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. What do I remember? There were times I don't remember much. I'm kidding. Well, maybe not, but this was, that was a really cold recording. We recorded
in LA.
Yeah, well, in the studio. Tom Werman loved this studio called Conway Studios, and it was freezing cold in this place. And I'd have to go outside and warm my hands up, and then come back in and play. Yeah, that's what I remember about that studio. It was expensive and cold.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I know this friend of mine is from LA, and he was telling me he's like they say in LA we don't know what it's like to be cold. He said, you ever walk into an ice cold Starbucks with shorts on? He's like, that's like negative 10 degrees in there, because of the AC.
Right. Yeah. I used to live out there, and I remember it was just kind of weird. Like at Christmas, people would be wearing shorts.
Oh yeah.
Kind of weird.
California. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you like living in LA?
Yeah, I did. Actually, I didn't like driving in it, but I liked living there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had a lot of musician friends there, and so my wife and I lived there before we were married and before we had children. But and then I lived there, when we recorded a couple records and we played out there a bit. But I actually lived there for a while, and I used to see Brian all the time. This was during the period where Kix had broken up. There was a period for 8 years where we didn't play together. We split up in 1996, and yeah, I lived out there during that period, and recorded a CD with a friend of mine who I wrote songs with, and a drummer that was great. He's great today. He plays. I met him jamming at a club. His name is Brent Fitz, and great guy. He just moved here from Canada, and so he played on the CD I made called Lack of Luxury. He plays with Slash now. He tours with Slash, and
Oh, cool.
he has his own band, Took, and he does a lot of different. He's very great. He's a great drummer. He's probably my favorite drummer next to Charlie Watts on this planet, and playing with him too. Not to mention the guys I play with. Those guys are great. Jimmy's a great drummer. Joe I play with now, and Aaron, all these guys. But he was, yeah. So living there was, yeah. I mean, the only time that I get frustrated was driving. Usually,
Yeah.
walking's great. It's.
I have a question for you about you were talking about that period. And now I might be like totally off on this, but I watched this documentary in the late 90s, and it was like when hair metal was like in the doldrums. So it was like, everything was post grunge or whatever. And it was kind of like a where are they now? And I swear one of the guys from Kix, they had painting billboards. Do you know?
Right.
Okay, so that actually did happen. Okay.
Yeah.
Was that out in LA or?
Yeah. That was during that period of time that we.
I'll be damned. I thought I hallucinated that. Holy shit.
And yeah, we all get. Well, at least Brian and I got day jobs. I worked at Paramount Pictures, schlepping mail on lot with a courier service, because we solely made our money from playing live, and we never sold record royalties. We didn't sell 2.5 million records that you might pay the record company back every, because there's a percentage, and I don't know if I want to get into all that, but if you sell 5 or 6 million, you kind of pay them back, and then you might start to see some change.
Yeah, I've heard that. That they kind of help themselves to your expenses, and then you get whatever's left over if there is any.
Yeah. There's been some justice done in the last 10 years with a few different companies who help bands and musicians get what they deserve, or at least some of it.
Yeah.
So that's been a great thing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Brian was painting billboards. His brothers moved there from Maryland, and they started a business because they were all quite artistic, the whole family. And Brian used to climb this and paint those billboards. And I think his oldest brother, still runs that company. And,
that's cool.
Yeah, so.
I wanted to ask you about you didn't play on Cool Kids. Like what happened there?
Same thing that happened many times in the band. I got strung out on drugs and wasn't pulling my weight. We had recorded started the band. We started off playing the Shoes for a couple of years. The first year or two, we had a different singer and drummer. Terry Brady was our singer. I still stay in touch with him. He's a great guy, a great singer. He was in one of Donnie's bands that I used to go see when I was a teenager. Donnie and Jimmy were in a band with Terry. And but yeah, I think it was by I get the years mixed up, but I think by 78, Jimmy and Steve were in the band. But we still went by the name The Shoes until we had to change it when we did our first record. We did a tour, played all around here, did a tour out west, and I came back, and I happened to be living with this girl who was a drug dealer. And I'm not blaming it on her, but I got involved with drugs, and I was showing up half hour late to practice. I hadn't really done my homework. I wasn't into the songs that like I was for the first record.
Mhm.
It just seemed to be taking a change, and it was the whole new wave era, and the record company sound lighter. And I mean, I grew up seeing all these great bands from the 60s and 70s, and I was like, oh my God, what is happening here? So
Yeah.
I kind of, it was two different things. I lost some interest. It was pretty much, the bottom line is I was not pulling my weight, and I was showing up late, and they kicked me out of the band. I lived out west for about 6 months, and when I came back, this other band had called me to come back here to play. I played on band out there, and also ended up in Chicago a couple times, jamming with Chip from Chip's Enough, from Enough's Enough.
Enough's enough.
Yeah, Chip's. Yeah. So, but I get to meet some people during that time, and but when I got back here, apparently things weren't working out. And Brian came to see me. Things weren't working out with Brad, and Brad's a great guy, and I know Brad, and we all know Brad, and I don't know exactly what the reason was, but they started coming to my house to see me and talk with me, Brian and Steve, and then so like 6 months later, after getting kicked out of the band, I was back in the band. So I did a couple of videos for the Cool Kids, and played all the gigs for that CD. And I grew to like some of the songs. And I was just glad to be back with the guys. I missed them, I miss them now. But again, that was, I haven't played with them since November of 2020, I think it was. That was my last gig with them. And again, it was drugs and alcohol. I sobered and cleaned up when I was 32. I went to one rehab up in Center City, Minnesota, but went there at this time of the year in January. our, our manager knew a guy from Atlantic who had went there. And Mark, our manager, knew get my butt on a plane, send me there because it was 25 below zero and I was not going to leave.
Oh my.
And it worked.
Yeah.
And I was paying everybody's butts for the first week until two guys in the group pretty much chewed me out and said, they're gonna kick you out of here if you don't straighten up and start paying attention. And I did, and I listened, and I had a great counselor. And when I left there after 30 days, ironically, the Blow My Fuse record had started selling, and it was crazy. The day before I was to leave, the bus, Jimmy K took my place for 3 weeks, and the bus came to Minnesota for a show, and they came and got me, the band, at rehab. It was called Hazelden, and it was a really great rehabilitation center. And I came out, went to rehearsal, and I was back on stage doing the opening for Rat, and it was our first arena tour. And I really believe that routine and being on the bus and being watched, like Donnie said, if we suspect anything, we're going to pee test. I said, fine, whatever it takes, and this was before computers, cell phones, or anything. Hazelden gave me 2 thick books of meetings, AA meetings, all across the U.S. And so when we'd stay at a hotel, I'd get my butt up at 7:38 in the morning, call a cab, and go find a meeting out of this directory I had from Hazelden. And I had my literature with me, and I was just so glad to be off of alcohol and drugs and to be doing what I love to do without any of that. And being, getting along with the guys and being the best at what I could do. That lasted for 21 years. I didn't drink. I didn't have a drop or a drug for 21 years. Story goes, truth be told, I had hepatitis C and I kept putting off the treatment. I knew I'd had it probably 10 years after I got sober and clean. And I kept putting off the awful, now that I had the new drugs, had I known, the awful interferon ribavirin. Finally, after 2 liver biopsies, my liver going to stage 2, as you guys know, probably the hep C attacks the liver.
Yeah.
And my liver was at stage 2 fibrosis. And so in my 21st year of sobriety, at the end of my 21st year of sobriety, I went on the interferon ribavirin. And Kix was playing again. We'd gotten back together in 2003 after 8 years of not playing together. And I was in my sober years when we got back together. And but this treatment, should call it punishment, really. It was for 11 months, and I'm glad that it sent my the virus into remission, and I get it checked from time to time. It's still in remission. However, it had all these side effects. It was brutal, and but the worst side effect I could name is I couldn't sleep. And the doctor put me on Ambien. The doctor treated me, knowing I'm a recovering alcoholic addict, treated me for hep C, and he knows that I got it from using, and puts me on Ambien. I don't know if they didn't know how dangerous that drug was. Some people it affects different. I mean, it really affected me. It got me high, and I got hooked on it. I wasn't telling anybody. There's other reasons for my relapse too. Complacency, not getting to as many meetings as I used to. I lost my sponsor, who was like my big brother, and he was in the music business, and his record company folded in LA, and he had to get like 2 jobs to keep his family going. And I was his 7th sponsee, and he had to let go like 4 sponsees, something like that. I'm not sure, but I was the 7th one, and he had to let me go, and it was like losing a big brother. He was great with me throughout my sobriety. I didn't seem to find another sponsor. I tried a few guys. They were kind of like, well, we think they thought that I was in a bad environment being in a band. I mean, it was so stereotyped that it would get to me. I was these sponsors that I get for a couple of weeks didn't work because they were thinking that I was in a bad place being in a band. I was like, no, you got it all backwards. This band wants me to be sober, and they, we've all drank, and some of us, indulged a little more than others, and a couple of us have the addictive personality, and I'm that guy, and I was excessive. We all smoked a joint or 2. We all did a couple things here and there, and we all drank some. But however, I was the guy and one of the other band members who overdid it and couldn't stop. And so I got hooked on this Ambien. I wasn't telling anybody that I was strung out, hooked on this drug while I was on this hep C treatment. When I got off of the hep C treatment, I was still taking it. And I would try to go without taking it, but I couldn't sleep, and we'd have a show to do, so I'd take it and so I'd get some sleep. But I'm just trying to state the facts and not rationalize or minimize anything, and or deny anything. I'm just saying that's what happened. And then my dad died, and I just said F it. He died 10 years ago on the 28th of December, and I just said F it. A month after he passed away, and I'd already gotten high off this Ambien, and the addicts thinking, the diseases say, hey, you don't want to go back into a meeting and say that you relapsed on Ambien. Let's do this right, And it was just insane thinking. And so, yeah, I went from that to illegal drugs, hard drugs, and then a couple years, and I went through um, my first rehab in 2000, my second rehab in 2014. Um, Somehow I skated by through 2013 using and not getting caught. And then caught, and I was sent to another rehabilitation center. Came out after 30 days. It wasn't enough because the disease of addiction, alcoholism, is progressive. And that's what I share at meetings or with anybody who has sobriety. I share that it only gets worse if you have the disease of alcohol addiction. And it came out, I was using again, ended up in another rehabilitation center in 2015. I started drinking again then, came out, went back to it again. I would get maybe 30 days sobriety. Went through another rehab. I went through 4 rehabs until this last time, 22 months and 9 days ago. I have 22 months and 9 days of continuous, uninterrupted sobriety as I sit here and talk with you.
I want to say, what happened to you with the doctor with the prescription? I think that happened to Steve Perry. I remember hearing it. Steve Perry was clean and sober, and he like hurt his back or something, and the doctor gave him like muscle relaxers, and of course he ended up going down the. I'm pretty sure I remember hearing that. Yeah, and this is when he was older. You know, he was in his 30s, I think. And yeah. These doctors, what the hell are they thinking? You know, I mean,
they're not, and it's big drug companies, and it's a whole.
Joe Perry, not Steve Perry. Not the Journey guy, the Aerosmith guy. Yeah.
Joe. Yeah, he had, I believe, knee operations. I believe I read.
That's what it was, knee operation.
Yeah. That happened. As far as it reads in his book, So
that's a great book.
Yes, it is well put together. It's a great book. All the details with his gear in the back is amazing.
Yeah.
And the story's awesome. And
he doesn't like the first album. It kills me because that's like my favorite Aerosmith album. I love the first record. One Mama Can on it, and he down talks it, and I'm just like, no, Joe, the album's great. You know.
It is a great record. I just gave it to my daughter last week. She goes, "Oh, Aerosmith." My daughter plays guitar. She's in one of the rock school bands, and I just gave her that first record because it's an amazing, great songs, and the guitar playing on that album is just amazing.
And you can sort of tell that he's not real comfortable with his vocals, so he's kind of gruff. He kind of takes it low, and it's cool. It's like the first Sabbath. He didn't want to go too high, you know. I love that.
He put that black feel, like some soul in his voice, and I noticed that too compared to later recordings. He talks about that. I'm not sure if it's in his book or not, but he mentioned that he did that. I think really cool, it was an interview, maybe a podcast. That talk about that.
A question for you: you guys worked with Beau Hill for Midnight Dynamite, right?
Yes.
Do you remember anything from that? Because he's part of the ZZ Top, you know. He's one of the Mount Rushmore guys, you know.
Yeah, and backing up with the whole blow my fuse thing, I remember everything that happened. Yeah, that was during my drinking and using periods. There were a couple of rough mornings. I remember, that was a good time though, and we poured our heart and souls in, like we always did in every record, into that record. But with Midnight Dynamite, we did that in 2 parts because Beau had another obligation and we needed to make some money. So we did part of it, I think, in December 1984 or 85. I think it was 84. And then top of the summer, we finished it. And that record was good for me in that it humbled me again. Beau was tough to work with as far as guitars go. I grew up with playing in the style like Rolling Stones, and he was more into the flash, like having worked with Warren DeMartini, who, you know,
Okay, yeah.
Warren's he's great. He's got a lot of roots to his playing, but he also has he can play that Van Halen feel. That's something that I never went for because I grew up in a different era, and so Bo didn't quite understand our basic blues style playing, but it got me to go take lessons from a guy and learn more stuff because Bo wasn't happy with some of the guitar playing. So I got my butt on a train and went to Newark, New Jersey, and worked with a guy named Mike Slamer, who was from England and a great guitar player. He could play the Van Halen style, but he said he learned it because he moved to the States and that was big at the time. But he was a Clapton fan, you know. But and the reason I ended up there was Mike played a solo on Midnight Dynamite on the original recording on Scarlet Fever. That's him playing the solo. It's very Van Halen style, and that's what Bo wanted to hear on that song. And I didn't know what he wanted. Bo was a keyboard player, and our rapport was our communication. There was a gap.
Yeah.
So there was. So I learned a lot of stuff from Mike going, and so I was really grateful in that. That record got me to open my mind a bit and realize that, hey, you know, there's more to be learned. And I mean, I've always been that way, and I still am today. I'm still learning licks by the guys that I love. There's always something else to learn.
Yeah.
And there's always another song to make up. And,
Well, I tell you what, I was at an 8th grade beer party. First time I heard Midnight Dynamite, and we all decided that you were the secret ingredient because we loved the first album, we hated Cool Kids, and then we loved Midnight Dynamite. So it had to be you.
That's right. Don't forget.
I remember like it was yesterday, you know. So
Well,
Yep.
I tell you, you know, back in the days, it seemed like you guys played every eve at Hammerjacks. It was like Thanksgiving Eve, and
Yeah.
I would just go to those shows like every time, me and my friends. So I have to tell you a story. It was general admission, and I'm about 5'2", so it was better for me to get to the upstairs part of Hammerjacks and get right on that rail so I could see.
Oh, right.
So we would get there really early. I don't even think I was 21, but of course we're drinking, waiting. We're sitting in line waiting to get in. And they were building the light rail at the time. So the people I were with, they would get up to go over there to pee. So the one kid we were with tripped on his way back and he hurt his ankle. But we kept saying, oh, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. So we get in the show. We stayed the whole show. You guys blew it out of the park. And then we turned to look at him at the end of the show and his ankle was a balloon.
Oh,
and
my
we had to go right to the hospital. But we still stayed the whole show because that's how your
Right.
fans are.
Yeah, that's what we all did back then. Yeah, diehards for rock and roll.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a religion.
Yeah.
It really was.
You
Right.
guys, I'm sure you guys have great memories from that Hammerjacks era because you were just there all the time.
That was the era. Yeah.
Yes, it was. Yeah. And I think our band, the Kicks band, was at its height of its performances.
Yeah.
It
I can't get over the fact that you had to get up in the morning and go to rehab or go to meetings during a late 80s tour with Rat. I mean, how much more debauchery could there be than that? And you had to go get up early.
And I wanted to. And I didn't partake in any of the debauchery.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I did a 180. I just changed. And it was about change. Change I must or die I will, basically.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about for me again, because I was dying in the last 10 years and I was ruining everybody's lives around me because I was unpredictable. And so that's what it's about. But yeah, some people can. I just can't. So, but I didn't see that much of it on the Rat tour. We pretty much went around. They were great guys, and Robin used to come in our dressing room, every night before the show, hang out with us, and I mean they were great guys. Every night I would go out and with Brian and Steve, or just Brian, and watch Warren play guitar.
He was amazing.
Stand on his side of the stage and just absorb how great a guitarist he is. So yeah, I just was glad to be there and be back in the band and be a part of, not apart from.
Well, we play a little game. We're gonna play a little game with you now. We always do with our folks we interview. Go ahead.
So I have a set of random questions between 1 and 100. So I want you to pick 5 numbers so that you get 5 random questions.
Okay. All right. You want me to name them off, the numbers?
Yes.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. The number 4, number 10, of course, 12, 15, 29.
All right.
That's 5.
That's
1,
5.
2, 3, 4, 5. We
There
got
you
it.
go. Okay, cool.
All right. Question number 4. Can you fold a fitted sheet?
Me either. Not at all.
I cannot fold a fitted sheet. It ends up in a ball.
Exactly.
And I think life is too short to try to fold a fitted sheet. There's too many
Oh, I like that.
to learn.
I'm gonna get that on a plaque. Life's too short to fold a fitted sheet. Ronnie TenTen. Yeah, that's gonna be your bumper sticker. Yeah.
It's true.
All right. Number 10. Do you have neat handwriting?
Yeah, I do. If
That's
I
great.
want to write neatly, I can. Like these lyrics I just wrote for a new song that I'm demoing today.
Look at that. Yeah, very neat.
Not bad, huh? But if
Not
I'm
bad.
in a hurry, the paper's not. Oh, it's here. I'll get it. Hold on.
Okay.
If I'm in a hurry and it has to be done, and it ends up looking like this.
Okay.
Okay, but I can write neatly. Yes.
I tell you what, the nuns. I went to school, Catholic school, and the nuns used to just rag on my penmanship, and I felt terrible. Little did I know, it didn't matter at all. That we were all ending up on keyboards anyway, So.
Oh man.
Because nobody cares about cursive writing anymore, right? So.
Steve told me that. Steve Wyvern told me that. He told us in the band. He's kind of a class clown. That he used to go to Catholic school. I forget what he did, but that nun. She pulled his hair and pulled his hair out. He said she just smacked it back on his head.
Oh yeah.
I was like, what? He had quite a few stories of the nuns. Yeah.
Yeah, the nuns used to know how to pull hair. They would pull the sideburn hair because that hurts, and they would twist it. Oh,
brutal, man.
It's terrible, and we paid for that. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, number 12. Do you have any obscure hidden talent?
Oh, do I? And aside from music.
Yeah, something unexpected. Yeah.
Obscure hidden talent. I'm thinking. I painted my old van and ended up looking really good.
All right.
Yeah, I sanded it down, dry sanded, wet sanded, and painted it myself. It looks pretty good. My wife didn't like the idea that I spent hours and days doing it, but Brian saw it. He even said, "No, not bad."
Awesome. You did your own body work. That's cool. Yeah, I could never do that. Yeah.
Was it solid or was it like a mosaic?
Oh no, I just had to paint the whole thing one color. And
That's
it was
cool.
the old,
Yeah.
It's, people just laugh at me, but I love that van. I had it since I was 18 years old. It's a 1975 GMC Van Dora, and it's the van that we used to drive in to go to our gigs in Baltimore.
Oh, that's great.
At first, I hauled the gear in it, and a couple different vans. When we got a truck, then we ended up riding in it. And yeah, that was the van. I still have it.
That's awesome. You've got the get in the van. Yeah.
Yep.
Number 15. Have you ever walked out on a job or know someone who has?
Yes. When I had to before I got my job as a janitor, at Smokey's Barbecue. I had to have a job to live in a recovery house, mandatory. And when was this? I think it was like September of 2021. Yeah, because I got out of rehab in August, the end of August, after 6 months. So it was around the beginning of September. I couldn't find a job. I mean, how do you find a job like when your resume reads played in rock and roll band? It just doesn't. Yeah. And so my friend Danny said, "Hey, go over to the sports place," and I'm not a sports guy. No, it was a gym. Go to the gym, and he said, "This lady in there, I think she needs some help cleaning up all the workout machinery." So I went there, talked with her, and then I started the next day, and I don't know what it was, but I was doing it too well. I couldn't read her. She wanted it done. She just wanted it done quickly. And there were a lot of machines, but I was like doing each one really well. So then I kind of met her in the middle. And then she came back and said something to me again about it. Then she sent one of the young guys to show me how to clean these machines. And I thought, you know what? Screw this. I walked out. I didn't even say goodbye. I just grabbed my jacket and I just walked out of the place. Didn't go back. Didn't look back. Yeah. So
That's
yeah,
great.
I walked out on the job.
Yeah, there it is.
All right, number 29. What did you want to be as a kid when you grew up?
Rock and roll guitar player.
Oh, congratulations.
Since I could remember.
That's awesome.
When I was 5, I used to hear guitars, country music my dad had playing, and I loved the sound of guitars, Telecasters, like this one I'm holding.
Oh, I like it. Yeah.
73. And
Used to have one just like it. I put a Gibson PAF in it though, and ruined the sound of it.
God.
We've all been there, and we've all done stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's funny that question about what did you want to be? I always thought it's really interesting because like you ask like guys like Joe Elliott and Steve Harris, they all wanted to be soccer players.
Oh, really?
They like settled, the English, they settled. That was their real stars in that era. Yeah, they settled for rock and roll. So I always think that's interesting,
Well, when I was 7, I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan's show, and that was it. I mean, yeah, I love guitars. Like when I was 5, hearing these country guitars, and twangy Telecasters, and I had like a plastic guitar, but I didn't know how to tune it. And when I was 7, I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan's show, and I went, "That's the sound.
Yeah.
That's the songs. That's the look, the whole package," and that's what I wanted to do. And then my parents got me a nice guitar. $50 guitar was a lot of money back in 1964, and I still have it. It was Stella, you know what I'm talking about, made by Harmony. And so I got a real guitar and I started learning how to play it. And I started my first band when I got my first. I had a couple acoustics from the time I was 8 until I got my first electric when I was 14. I started my first band when I was 14. We used to play at the schools, at fire halls, and it's like, so that's what all I've ever wanted to do. And
that's great, man.
Yeah, and it's what I love, and it's I don't feel well if I don't feel calm unless I have a guitar in my hands. Like I can't wait to pick one up. And I mean, I have them hanging all over the walls, so I can pick one up at any time. An amp in every room. I would like to turn my whole house into a big amplifier, like just plug into the wall, and put speakers everywhere. I don't know if I'll get that far, but so I mean, that's what I've always wanted to do. And yeah, so that's why I am not going to let drugs or alcohol take it away from me again.
No, understood. Understood. What are some of your favorite like solos or just guitar parts that you laid down for kicks over the years?
Oh, which ones solos? Oh, I like that thing in Atomic Bombs. It just lent it. So I had this old Stratocaster at the time. I only had 2 guitars at that time. I had a 63 Strat and a 59 Junior, Les Paul Junior. And that was the first song I ever played with Donnie. And I happened to be playing the Strat. And it just, that whole whammy thing. And like I'd been listening to Rocks, and there's some whammy stuff on that record.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. And
That's it, man. That's my gateway drug. That's song 1, side 1, album 1.
Yeah.
There was no going back after that. Yeah.
Right. So that's solo, and then there were quite a few others. Solo in the Hot Wire, I like that one a lot. Donnie worked with me with that one. Donnie was great with. He would hear certain things. I would go home and work up like 4 or 5 solos, take them in. He'd listen to and he'd go, well, let's try this part. But I was hearing this, and yeah, that solo both of us put together. But that's one of my favorites. The solo to Blow My Fuse is actually backwards.
Really?
I like that solo. Only Tom Werman came in and just, we flipped the tape over him because we were using tapes back then. And that whole solo is just backwards. I played it, and I had to learn to play it backwards. But that's one of them. So, yeah, those are a few of my favorites. Absolutely.
There's kind of this weird backlash against Tom Werman in these last few years. I don't know if you've heard about it. Like a lot of these bands are like the guys from The Crew and like Dee Snider. They didn't like the way the album sounded, and I don't understand it because I'm like, well, you sold like 10 million copies. I mean, you were okay with it then. I mean, Tom Werman was a pretty cool guy, wasn't he?
I like Tom.
Yeah.
He had a good ear for what's a good rock and roll song.
For the radio. Yeah, that was his thing. He knew what was good to get on the radio. Yeah.
And he was good with he was good with a rapport with the guys from the record label. He was always on the phone. And he's quite gregarious. And yeah, but I like working with Tom. We had a few things that went on that weren't approved of, especially by a couple of other band members. But I thought, personally, that's what, when we make a record, that's how it ends up sounding. And I mean, pretty much have to accept it that was the time, and that was the sounds. I'm not crazy about the sound of the guitars on the Blow My Fuse record because, but that was the thing that was going on. They had, I remember Dwayne and what was his other? Oh, God, I forgot the guy's name. Crap. The 2 engineers had these EQs in a rack on the wall, and they kept messing with them with the sound. I'm kind of like, you get a good sound out of the amp, you record it that way, and that's what goes down. And you know that from playing guitar. But these guys kept messing with these EQs, and that's what, I mean, that was the gear they had then. They were playing with the gear, and that's how it ended up. But I'm okay with, how these records end up sound. Pretty much, though, I really like the sound of the guitars on the first record.
Yeah.
And Hot Wire. And Hot Wire was the first record I made in my sobriety years. That one, we had a great engineer that worked with the guitars. He was a guitar player. It was at Sunset Sound. He spent a lot of time with Brian and I getting sounds. We had we used the old tube board that was at Sunset Sound. So the first record and Hot Wire are my favorite sounding guitars.
Who's the kid in the first record? Who is that? You? Because we got to get rid of the kid because the kid's too loud. Is that you?
When when I knew I was getting kicked out of the band at that time before the second album, every time we played that song, I thought, this song's about me. But it wasn't about me. I think it was about, as best as I can recall and say, I think it was just about any kid in general. But it could have been the inspiration was sparked by this Donnie's girlfriend's son, Troy. It could have been about him, maybe.
Did you come up with that riff? That riff is fucking awesome. In The Kid. Was that you?
Yeah.
Oh, he says it. Look, he says it so. He says it so innocently.
Did I come up with the riff, or did I
Yeah.
play?
Did you come up with the riff?
Donnie wrote the whole thing.
Oh, it's Donnie. Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious.
It's just I started the song off. That's my thing, playing the underlying rhythm.
Yeah.
Brian could do. He was the fill master, and and then we split or did solos together.
Clear up. The spoken part at the beginning of "Blow My Fuse", was that scripted?
Was that what?
Was it scripted?
Wait a minute, I'll turn you up. I couldn't hear you. Was it?
Was it done on purpose? Was it like scripted?
The noise.
The spoken part at the beginning.
Oh, that was Dan. That was our roadie. He came in and tripped over a music stand, and he was left. That was our roadie. That poor guy. He lived in this room next to me. I lived in this efficiency in Hagerstown, Maryland, above Steve during. It was when I got back in the band for the Cool Kids era, after being on leave for bad behavior for 6 months. I lived with Steve. I lived above Steve, and he lived downstairs. And this young guy moved next door with his mom, and his name was Dan, and he kept bugging me. He would knock on my door every day, and then we put him to work, and he was our roadie, and he was a roadie. Yep, that's what he was. He wasn't a tech. He was a roadie. But he did everything for us, and including some mischievous things that caused him to get sent back across the country in a Greyhound bus.
Oh my! Oh dear!
He stole our van one night in L.A. while we were recording "Blow My Fuse" to go score drugs, and we noticed there were some scratches on it or something that had been moved. How he moved that van, we don't know. I would come back off the road. There would be times we couldn't take all the crew, and I'd come back and I noticed my van, the one I was telling you about, my pride and joy.
Yeah.
Eye roll from my wife, and it would have been moved. And one time I came back and a big scratch down the side. He would hotwire my van and take girls out in it while I was gone. So he had somewhat of a criminal mind. And
I guess so, yeah.
His name, he got named Dan, the dumbest man in Maryland. That's what, poor Dan. And that was Dan tripping over falling over the music stand in the studio and Steve laughing at him. That's
Great.
what that was. So.
I love
great.
that it stayed on the recording.
I got one for you. So the studio to live in yeah. That is that from Train Kept a Rollin' Aerosmith? Is that where you guys got the idea for that? Because it's exactly the same. I mean,
No, not really.
You're such an Aerosmith guy, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. How you put two and two, correlate this, but it was Steve has, as you know, has the gift of gab, and we were always trying to do something different, So this rap evolved in from playing playing nonstop and playing at this one club. Specifically the Mountain View, which we all heard of, and everybody played there. And that rap just kind of evolved. And then our A&R man heard it, and he suggested we expound on it. To the best of my recollection, this is how it happened. So it was actually written out and Steve did it in the studio, and all the background noise is us making the background noise and doubling it and tripling it. And it was Brian and Donnie and Jimmy and I and a couple girlfriends and, you know, the engineer at the studio. We just mic'd us making a lot of racket and added with Steve's rap. It was kind of an evolution.
Is that rap? Did that actually happen? Did he really have that? Where the girl threw up all over the floor? Did that really happen?
Sort of. Yeah, we definitely elaborated on it, but
yeah.
a lot of that did happen throughout.
I would think so. Yeah.
Bits and pieces from different scenarios of travel on the road and hotel room shenanigans and whatnot. So yeah, it's kind of enhanced a bit.
Was there an actual Rosie?
No. Rosie meant pretty much all girls in general that we knew.
But the band you made a recording with now, the CD you did now, are you touring with them anytime soon, or?
Oh yeah. Well, we just played in Staten Island. We had a good show there. We played with a band called 10 Ton Mojo, the Blues Vultures. We played a few shows with those guys, and they're a great band, and we just love them. We get along great with them. Paul Kane, the drummer, he's the leader of the band. Talk with him frequently, and we really have a good rapport. And the music fits together real well. We played there. We just played at the Racehorse Tavern last Friday, and we are playing. I just got a text I answered before I got online with you both. We're going to play. We're going to do the Blues Vultures are going to do the pre-party for the M3 festival.
Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah. I would love to be playing with the Kicks band, but Bob stepped up to bat when I was down.
Yeah.
And he's a great guy. He's a great guitarist, and they get along with him really well. And I think he's very personable. And he texts me on holidays or here and there, and says hey, and great player, great guy, and I'm happy that they're happy.
Yeah, no, that's great.
But I do miss them. I miss the routine. I miss traveling. I miss playing on the big stages with those guys, or for bigger crowds. I miss all of it. But that's how it happened, and they're doing what they needed to do, and God bless them.
Well, thank you for doing this. This was great. We got all of our Kicks trivia answered that we wanted to know.
Yeah, great. But yeah, the Blues Vultures, we're recording the CD now. I'm not playing any gigs because when I go into gig world, I spend days before the show getting ready for it. I focus on all the songs. I'll work on a few bits and pieces of new songs, but right now I'm focusing on new songs for the new Blues Vultures CD, and we're starting recording on Monday, drum tracks, and I'm busy finishing these songs, and we probably won't. And our, God bless him, our bass player Clifford, he's got some medical health issues right now, and he can't play out. Our last two gigs, we had our previous bass player come in and play. Great guy, great player, Dylan Howes, and come in and filled in for Clifford. Clifford, we all are praying for him. We wish him the best. But he can't go out and play right now anyway. So we're hoping he'll be back in full fold by the time we do this May gig starting back up. I don't foresee us playing until then, until I get the CD done. That's what's happening.
All right, my friend.
Well, we will keep a close eye on that one.
Absolutely.
We'd love to hear more from you.
Yes, he really would.
Great.
Yeah.
I had a great time talking with you both.
Falling on deaf ears.
Okay, Deaf Ears 1. Coming from Orange County, California, the band is Leatherwolf. These guys have been around forever. They formed back in 1981, and it's fractured a couple times despite several full lengths and lots of singles. This band tends to re-release their own records. I don't know what the story is. Maybe we'll try to get them on the show.
Yeah.
Sort of an emissary kind of thing. Or maybe it's just label trouble, but like their self-titled album Leatherwolf came out in '84, and then it came out all over again in 1987 with different cover art, different label.
I bet they jumped labels.
And then World Asylum was released in '06, only to be followed by New World Asylum in '07. So it's very perplexing. But at any rate, the new album is called Kill the Hunted. And it looks like the drummer Dean Roberts and the bass player Barry Sparks are the mainstays. So I'll let you continue.
The new record is produced by Randy Burns, and it's a great galloping metal in the vein of Saxon, like Grim Reaper, Sabotage, blazing guitar solos with twin harmonies.
The Randy Burns that did the first Possessed album. That guy. Yeah. Those guitar solos are very intense. The harmonies are great.
The riff in The Henchman is fantastic.
It's so good. So good. I think that's my favorite song on the new album. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 full lengths, including Kill the Hunted, but 2 of them are re-releases.
And it was quite a jump, as we found with many bands, since the 2007 re-release to this offering, which is 2022.
Yeah, it's a long time. So let's play a song. Why don't you go ahead and introduce it?
This song is from 2022's offering, Kill the Hunted. This is Nobody.
Leatherwolf.
Or Tiger.
Tiger brand coffee tastes so neat. Even big cats prefer a cup of it to real meat. Okay. Deaf Ears 2, I'll let you handle this one.
This is Caustic Cassanova. This is a quirky prog punk 4-piece from Washington, D.C., with roots going all the way back to their young college days when they were but mere teens at William and Mary.
That's where Thomas Jefferson went to school.
In Virginia.
While John Adams was a Harvard graduate.
Okay, so they came together back in 2005 when, like I said, they were mere teens. CC plays a bass-heavy, sort of sprightly heavy prog. That sounds like an oxymoron, a sprightly heavy prog. But it's kind of accurate.
They remind me of Dog Fashion Disco.
Yeah.
Not as metal, but just as jumpy and just as good at musicians. Yeah. So. And they're practically local.
They have certainly had their shares of ups and downs over the year. According to their website, they list as part of their difficulties, lineup changes, life-threatening injuries, and relentless do-it-yourself touring. Their latest record was recorded at the Magpie Cage recording studio right here in Baltimore. They are a self-proclaimed riff-roaring, bass-infused blend of metal, hard rock, flavored with doses of noise and stoner psychedelia.
What were some of the hardships that your band had? Hemorrhoids, shifting tectonic plates, a lack of earthworms. Just to be different. All right, let's play a song. This is from the latest disc, Glass Enclosed Nerve Center. This is some weird shit, people. This song is called Anubis Rex.
Deaf Ears number 3. This is Boston Manor. This is a 5-piece pop blues from Blackpool, England. Maybe they would like our Harry Potter.
Boston Manor. We can put them on a tour with Welshly Arms. And what was the other one? Parkway Drive.
Parkway Drive. I think. Who's putting that one together?
It's bands named after buildings or something. Bands named after streets and buildings. Anyway, sorry, guys.
This band's music is sexy, danceable rock that fits right in with Royal Blood, Queen of the Stone Age,
Welshly Arms.
The
Barbara Hernandez.
Barbara Hernandez. The band's sound blends like emo in with heavier influences. Reminiscing. Sometimes I love to reminiscate.
Mm.
It's kind of reminiscent of a 90s grunge and early 2000 post-hardcore.
I just think it sounds like Roll Blood. Yeah.
And incidentally, they have been nominated for the Best British Breakthrough at Kerrang Awards in
Best
2018.
British breakthrough at Kerrang. My Jove.
And they also won an award for their best album artwork in 2019. But this is their latest, 2022.
I bet they would appreciate a little Harry Potter.
Datura is their latest offering.
Okay. And what song are we going to play?
I think we should play Foxglove.
All right, let's do that.
Like you do, so bar the front door and don't let it in. I am the poster child, a sucker for original sin. I'm such a bore, wish I could wind my neck in.
Well, it seems we've come to the end of another great show. We discussed a mind-blowing amount of kicks, trivia, and whatnot. Yes.
Reminiscing to our younger days, and maybe we'll still get out and see them and reminisce.
We talked about the number 13 and why so many people are afraid of it.
And stupid ass superstitions. My God, we live with the black cat. Can you imagine the amount of time she crosses our path?
That Malfoy is a cunt indeed. We handled that one pretty well. And we talked about that I fucking fell on my ass and that I'm going to be okay. But boy, did it hurt. It was so bad. It was like I was sitting there watching TV on like day 2, and the show was awful. I forget what it was. And I was like, oh my God, the remote's all the way over there. Oh, I guess I'm just going to have to sit here and watch this. And then just be like, babe, can you come change the channel? It was terrible. I wouldn't wish on anybody. Anyway, so
We haven't talked about the old Sizzler days in our collectorbation.
we did. And the incredible Gull Records era of Judas Priest. Some of the
With
best.
some fun facts.
Yes, it's fun facts. And a very angry soda company. So, everyone lost in that. The band didn't like it. They got sued over it. That's great. Good stuff. So, very rock and roll. This has been the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast. Special thanks to TenTen Ronnie for appearing on the show. Kicks, rolls. Snaggletooth theme, courtesy of Jens Kemgren of the Firebombs. Where's our shirt, Jens? Deaf Ears theme, courtesy of Tim Green. Deaf Ears bands, check them out. Caustic Cassanova, Boston Manor, and Leatherwolf. All content 2023, the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast.
To protect you.
This is the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast.